Hello everyone, this is Jimmy and welcome to episode 30 of Celestial Journey. Yesterday we entered the creative era with the creative storage upgrade. Doesn't really do anything terribly creative, it basically turns a drawer into a deep storage unit, like it removes the storage limit on a drawer, and for how difficult it is to make, it's not really worth using. However, it is a crafted material for future creatives, so, we'll need it. Moving on from there, then, we can either go, well, let's see. Creative vending is one of the last items in the pack, so that's that where we're going. Creative cache is, again, basically a deep storage unit. It takes two creative storage and a corrupted base. The other option we can do is work towards a creative modifier, which also takes corrupted base. And in both those cases, the corrupted base is a difficult part of the recipe. I think in terms of the creative modifier, it's the only difficult part because if we, like right now, I could probably make 100,000 of these divine pickaxes. And in the process of making corrupted base, you make compressed Theracium. So I think I've shown this before, but let's walk down this recipe a little bit. Takes a little bit of Awakened Draconium, whatever, a little bit of Adrosium, but the real challenge are these 24 death bases, which have these death protection poppets. Again, tool base, whatever. Easy. These, not so easy. In here, again, thankfully, there's only one really difficult part. Like, poppets take a little bit of crafting. It's unfortunate because Enchanted Fabric has to be handcrafted. Again, things in the arcade workbench can't be automated, but we don't need so much that's going to drive me insane. Spanish moss, we can trade for, or we can grow. It grows like whatchamacallit, like things that grow in like on jungle trees, vines. That's the word. So it's up, whichever way you want to do it. That's trivial. We have to automate the spinning wheel a bit, but we'll have to do that along the way anyways. Again, hearts, we'll probably trade for it. Generally speaking, when you can trade for something, it seems like a pretty sound solution. So, moving on, the Zeracium binder is the hard part. This step's easy. Aluminum brass comes from seeds. I've already planted those. We'll have, 400,000 in storage in a matter of, I don't know, a couple hours. Zeracium is made from compressed Zeracium, yada yada yada. Essentially, the gist is we have to make a lot of Zeracium crystals. So in here, there are, I think, 8 unique items of varying difficulties. Amber, easy. Why? We can make it with essence. Alright, one down. Thorn Vines, they also grow like, vines. So phytogenic insulator is disabled, so we'll need to come up with a way to farm these. Alright, so there's, let's bookmark these as we find them. Fell pumpkins, all these components come from, at least can come from essences. I don't think I've made all the appropriate seeds yet, but the fact that they can all come from essences means there's really nothing to see here. Pumpkins can also just be grown. So I'll consider that easy and not bother bookmarking it. Barley, barley's actually kind of tricky. So I can farm barley. However, there's no easy way to convert barley into barley seeds super easily. What I'm thinking is, have I 10 barley yet? Let me check. I find it unlikely. I think I'm currently doing spider or something right now. I haven't. Okay. But this process, you know what? Let me just go grab a few seeds real quick. Alright, so if I plant barley seeds, we can grow, or we can duplicate the seed, right, by putting crop sticks here. And eventually it'll spread into there, and then we can just repeat this process. And each time we do this, we get a duplicate seed. It'll always stack, but it has met this MBT data on it from being an agricraft seed. These, I want single sticks. I'm kind of curious if these seeds can be crafted into the barley seed bags, or if it has to be, like vanilla barley from Natura. So these still say they're from Natura, so I suspect this will work. Nice. So this is one way we can get barley seeds. The other way, obviously, is just to plant the conventional way, like put it in one of the plots of this farm here. But I think this might be a little slow. Let's see. All right, I planted barley here in the farming station, and it actually seems like when you gather barley with a farming station, you don't get extra seeds, which makes it a pretty bad solution, actually. So why don't we try setting up a automated system that'll, take advantage of the the crop spreading behavior to make barley. All right, here's my seed duplicator. Very loud, but aside from that, I mean, it's functional. So, step one, place a sound muffler to protect your ears. We have a central fully grown seed, and it when when it gets a growth tick, it has a chance to spread to the sides. And I just every second have have a mechanical user placing crop sticks, and then just before it gets ticked again, I have a mechanical user breaking or a mechanical miner breaking them. Then the crop sticks get recycled because they're never used up, and the seeds get sent to a crafter to be crafted into seed bags, which I guess I will then store into a drawer somewhere. But yeah, this is our barley seed bag creation device. There's also the fact that because these barley seeds actually cannot grow here, they need air above them to grow. They will never grow into full barley, and in that case, I don't have to deal with what happens if these block breakers get filled up with full barley, like fully grown barley. This won't happen. As for where to store the barley seeds, this drawer here and the stuff behind it used to be for vibrant alloy, but since I'm now making vibrant alloy with mystical agriculture, I don't need the alloy smelter set up. In fact, many of these I can tear down, and I probably will at some point. But I've since just repurposed this drawer for barley seed bags. All right, with that out of the way, let's continue on. Real Might blocks are very easy. Real Might ingots is dropped from one of the Divine RPG mobs. We can spawn them as needed. Inactive respawn obelisk is alumentum and ghostwood. So ghostwood just comes from a tree farm. I've planted it here. That quadrant is spawning that, and ghostwood we have 8,000. If it turns out that a one quadrant tree farm is too small, I can probably just make a full tree farm, kind of like our darkwood one, for just ghostwood. But I'm willing to give the small one a shot before I upgrade. Moving on. For Alumentum, right now we can make it, not from here, we can make it on demand in this thing. However, I think I'll just set up a second alchemical construct, whatever this is called, that's dedicated to just producing Alumentum full time. And that'll also, ensure that we always have enough Alumentum to keep this stocked. This is the fuel for our super smeltery. So I guess let's do that right now. That was easy. Since this thaumatorium here only produces a single item, I don't need any of these mnemonic matrices on it. It can share a empty or a provider with this because the emptying transfuser is wireless, and I just have a export bus providing coal, and it constantly crafts alumentium. All these aspects are automatically created in our Essentia farm, so we don't have to worry about running out of those. If it turns out I'm creating way too much, I can just apply a level emitter to turn off this export bus once we reach a threshold. I'm going to just let it run for now, and if in a couple days I check and see like, oh, I have 100,000 alumentum, I probably don't need that much. I can I can turn it off. In fact, instead of doing a chest and an import bus, let's actually just change this to a drawer and a storage bus. There we go. I don't know what happens if the thaumatorium doesn't have room to spit its items, but I, at the same time, don't expect that we'll ever have 7,168 stacks of alumentum. So, yeah, this will quite handily produce alumentum for us for practically forever. With alumentum and ghostwood out of the way, that covers the inactive respawn obelisks. So the last item is Splash Potion of Harming, instant damage 2. So this requires a few brewing steps. I think it's, let's see, fermented spider eye, glowstone, regular spider eye, and netherwort. So that's quite easy to do in the Industrial Foregoing Potion Brewer, so let's set one of those up. For potion brewing, the Potion Brewer is a godsend. Who'd have thought, eh? Instead of having to hook up a bunch of vanilla brewing tables back to front and have a bunch of filters, we just have to supply this one machine with all the inputs. So the inputs come from a few sources. Stuff that is produced from our farm in raw form just gets dumped in the ME interface, and then stuff that has to get processed, like we don't automatically produce glass bottles, but we do automatically produce glass. So glass to glass bottles. Likewise, fermented spider eyes, we produce spider eyes, sugarcane, and the stuff to make mushrooms, but generally all this is to avoid putting the crafting card in here. That's the gist of things. So all that gets put, all that gets, subcomponents get crafted. They all get jammed in here. And let's see, by locking the inventory, it will never use up the last item in here. Not that I think it's fast enough. It'd have to outpace our crafter to use the last item, but that prevents it from ever changing its recipe, so to speak, and it produces a final item. So let's store those in perhaps a cache. Potions don't stack, right? So they're pretty bad to store in. Pretty bad to store in drawers, but they're pretty good to store in caches because caches don't care about, stacking. So let's grab a conversion kit for this as well, and it can hold, I think, 500,000 items. And shift right click it to lock it. So now it's even pretty fast. Every 48 ticks, so every 2.5 seconds, it does one step. There's 5 steps total. I guess 6 because one step is filling the water, right? So 6 by 2.5 seconds, 12 plus 3, about 15 seconds. So about 5 seconds per potion. That's not a half bad rate. It's probably fast enough to keep up with our consumption. Anyways, all that's left is to slap a storage bus on this cache, and we have our potions automated. So the last item we need are Thorn Vines. They spawn naturally in the Nether. But obviously collecting the natural spawns is probably not going to be a viable, way to get the hundreds of thousands we need. So I'm just going to collect a few and then we can come up with a way to farm them. So the first thing I want to test is, can they grow at all in the overworld? I planted a handful here. I imagine without any form of tick acceleration, it'll take quite a while. Another thing I actually want to test is, can they be tick accelerated? So I remember in Divine Journey, I relied heavily on imaginary time blocks, tick accelerating Thorn Vines as my, Thorn Vine farm. So let's see if that still works. Sure, looks like it works, right? As soon as I plugged in that imaginary time block, they started growing. That's good. So I think we can work with that, and then all we need is some way to automatically harvest these. The first thing I want to try to harvest them with is a clearing silk quarry. Has to be clearing because I don't want to replace the vines with dirt, and I think it has to be silk touch because I don't think you get the vines otherwise. So just bind it to that region, put it in, turn it on. Doesn't look like it got the vines. It definitely broke them, but it didn't harvest them. That's a shame. That would have made this very easy. Didn't expect it to work, but I figured it was worth a shot. I think if I'm gonna do a little bit, a few more attempts and see if I can make it work, but I'm pretty doubtful at this point. All right, after a little bit of tinkering, I think I came to a good solution. We have a mechanical user with shears in it. I chose unstable shears just because they're unbreakable, although I suspect any type of shears will work, but may as well use the unbreakable one, right? It is interacting with the thorn vines on the bottom row via an ender porcupine. The ender porcupine, when you set it to a range, it cycles through, the one block in the range every second. That way I can have one mechanical user handle, all 7 of the blocks. It's not necessary this way. You can just make 7 mechanical users. They're not like expensive at this stage or anything. But I think there's a certain elegance to it. Anyways, each second it cycles to the next block. And then this, left clicks on it, use item on block with the shears. A vacuum chest picks up the items, and lastly, all I have to do is, ingest the items into our AE system, or perhaps put them into a drawer. Yeah, I think I'll do that. I'll put the items into a drawer and then put a storage bus on the drawer. And this is our automated thorn vines. At 1 per Zerastium crystal, I don't think we need ultimate stew for anything. Yeah, at just 1 per Zerastium crystal, I think this is, 1 a second is plenty fast generation rate. And if it turns out we need more, well, I guess I can switch to having 2 mechanical users. Now that we have all the components for this, we can autocraft them. However, this is the type of stuff we'll need tens, hundreds of thousands of, before we're done with the pack. While autocrafting, on demand is one way to do it, the fact that the fact that we'll need so many inevitably means that it's a great candidate for background crafting. So I'm going to craft a few here just to make sure that, we actually have the components. In fact, can I request 1,000? Now, there's still a bunch of stuff that we don't have enough of. But basically, I want to set up a background crafting system that, as our raw ingredients come in, they just get crafted into Zeracium crystals. And I think even the next step, we can we can craft them down to molten Zeracium. And if we even craft the Scorching Swords, we can craft them into plateless molten Zeracium. This step is a bit more complicated, so maybe we'll stop it. I'll make a background crafting thing that'll get us up to plateless molten Zeracium. There's a lot of subcrafting involved in this, so I ended up giving it 3 slices. First, I just craft the fell pumpkins because it takes a lot of inputs. Basically, I ran out of input slots on ME interfaces, so I had to split it up. Fell pumpkins take like 5 different inputs, so they just get crafted and stored in a drawer. Then I withdraw the fell pumpkins as a complete item, combine it with all the other subcomponents that we started farming today or that we have other means of acquiring, and that we craft both the inactive respawn pylon and finally the Zeracium crystal here. Then we send the Zeracium crystal onto a redstone furnace where it gets cooked into molten Zeracium. That we then extract into, this should be on insert, not extract into another crafter here, which combines it with the Scorching Swords, which do get consumed in the process. So we need to keep our Purple Blaze farm running, which it is running now, so that's not a concern. But it crafts it with the Scorching Sword to create 2 plateless molten Zeracium, which we then store here. Next, we have to take this stuff and drop it into a mana pool. Right, so I want to test real quick to see, does it actually take half of a mana pool? Because if it does, we're going to need a lot more mana production. Alright, so this Dreamy mana pool now has a Conjuration Catalyst under it, which I think was what the, let's keep buying, or let's bind this so that I can see. Yeah, it needs a Conjuration Catalyst. And now remember, this is a double mana pool, so it's a full double mana pool right now. If I throw 2 of these in it, if that takes up half the mana pool, which it didn't, thankfully, so that means it takes up significantly less than a half mana pool. In fact, if I get my wand, I suspect it's 10x zoomed, which means it would have taken about, 2 of them would have taken about 10% of a double pool, which is already starting to refill. So let's see, if I go off that guess, then how many, if 2 of them take up 10%, then 20 of them would take up about a pool. Let's see what happens if I throw 20 in here then. It's not really 100% necessary that I know exactly how much mana it takes, but, it's good to have an approximate idea. Anyways, 20 of them took exactly half a pool. So 40 of them basically 20 of them take up exactly 1 single mana pool, right? Which is consistent with it being, being 10x zoomed, shown here in JEI, because we're throwing it into a double mana pool, which isn't even shown here. But because I want mana from all of our mana pools and not just any single one of them to contribute to the crafting, I set up another Dreaming mana pool here that has our catalyst under it. I can't just use the auto crafting system we already have, because if I put a catalyst here, it changes the recipes, right? Like some of the recipes we have here are redstone to mana powder, but if you have a conjuration catalyst in your mana pool, instead of getting mana powder, you just get 2 redstone back. So needs to be a separate mana pool. Next, all I have to do is detect, as long as this mana pool has at least a certain amount of mana in it, we should try to drop the Zeracium crystals into it. Thankfully, mana pools, you can detect their fullness with a redstone comparator, so I'm just setting it to, I don't know, somewhere around half full. If it's more than half full, then we can, let's see, I want an open crate and, a dropper mechanism for it. So as long as this mana pool is more than, about half-ish full, I will have this export bus sending active with signal, plateless molten Zeracium. I have to deal with the issue where after they craft, some of them get stuck in the corner. I'll probably just have to use a separate vacuum chest, a dedicated vacuum chest for this one crafter. But this will drop our plateless molten Zeracium into the mana pools as long as we have, enough mana to do it. This has been running for a little while. We have, 700 plus Zeracium, but we still have some, molten or plateless molten ones that have to be crafted. However, because our mana is too low, it's waiting to drop them until, our mana fills up a little bit. That way we don't have to worry about, if we drop too many at once and it sits there for 5 minutes and despawns because we didn't generate enough mana. That won't be a problem. However, I'm thinking right now we only have this short on mana problem because, we have like all the initial backlog that we're going through. If that turns out not to be the case, though, we will have to ramp up our mana production. But for now, I think our however many cake plants are enough. So we can see that we are now passively crafting Zeracium in the background. This will just always happen as long as, the server's up and running. Or I guess I'm still on single player, so as long as I'm logged in. But it's pretty fast. I think the bottleneck in our process is still the production of the barley seeds. It takes 18 seeds per crystal, and we only produce, about 2 a second. So it takes about 9 seconds to make a Zeracium crystal. I suspect that's fast enough. If it isn't, again, we can revisit our bottlenecks later. So now that we have Zeracium, there's a couple steps left to craft it before we get all the way up to Zeracium Chain. However, these are both very simple crafting steps, and there are uses for the intermediates, so I don't want to just auto-craft them up to Zeracium Chain all the time. Because they're just simple auto-crafting steps, I feel comfortable doing them on demand. So let's just encode those recipes. Like, for example, regular Zeracium, if we were to all compress it, then we lose out on the ability to make braziers. And braziers are a component in the auto extreme crafting table if we choose to go this route instead of the Botania route, which I haven't studied yet. Anyways, so there's that recipe, there's this recipe, and this has an intermediate. And do I know how to make yellow dye? What's it called? Dandelion. Yes, we do. All right, we have dye seeds to produce it, so it's it's going to be easy to make. I just have to make sure the A system knows how to do it. We have a lot of recipes encoded now. I think I'm on my third, assembler tree right now. Right there's 3 of them there. I suspect I'll need a 4th one before the pack's done, but not can't say for sure. So now we should be able to request Zeracium chains. Each one takes 36 Zeracium, but we have, 700, 800 and change. So let's just give me 20 of them, why don't you? Cool. So it doesn't take a significant amount of anything else. I guess it takes some plastic, but our plastic's been, auto-crafted for quite a while now. Cool. So that makes Zeracium chain. Or Zeracium, wait, that's only chain. I have to go from chain to binder. Okay, but that's a trivial task. There we go, 20 Zeracium binders. These look creepily suspicious like rib cages. Kinda weirds me out. Anyways, now that we have Zeracium binders, the next step is to craft them into death protection poppets. So of these, let's see what we already have. We just made this. Our juniper farm produces these. Mana diamonds we can make on demand with our, dropper setup. So we have hearts and poppets. Let's start with hearts. I need to find a hedge witch, get him to level 4, and see if he has the diamonds for hearts trade. And by diamonds, I totally mean emeralds. So, any hedge witches looking? Hey, hi hedge witch. I assume you can't have it yet, right? Yeah. How about you come with me? You don't have to bleed anymore. You just have to trade for the rest of your life. That's an improvement, right? And I'll just have to trade with you a bit to level you up. Alright, I leveled up our hedge witch to 4, and it looks like he is willing to trade. Oh, we can trade for Spanish moss off this guy too. But anyways, 4 emeralds for 2 hearts. Seems like a worthwhile deal to me. Don't know where you get all these hearts from, but I'm not one to ask. So let's, I guess I'll add another villager trade exchanger here, and we can dump the final products into that drawer system. Alright, villager, thank you for your services. All right, with hearts taken care of, I think the only thing left is the poppets themselves. We obviously don't have enough hearts yet because we just started trading, but that'll build up over time. So let's bind Poppet. There are a few things here, right? Spirit string and Spanish moss. So first of all, I'm going to try to see if we can grow Spanish moss the same way we're growing these thorn vines. I don't see why not, so I expect this will work. So it looks like Spanish moss grows just fine when grown, with the imaginary time block. And they likewise have to be sheared. They can't be, like, if you just break them with no tool, you don't get it. And it does say effective tool axe. I guess we can try an axe. I don't know if it'll be meaningfully different. I guess a shick axe is an axe, right? That's not a shick axe. Yeah, it looks like breaking them with an axe is quick, but you don't get the drop. So we still need shears to get them as a drop. So I'll probably set up another system that's, more or less identical that is identical to this one to do Spanish moss. All right, so we basically just have the exact same setup on this side. This seems slightly less efficient than the other one because sometimes when the moss doesn't fully grow, it grows into that V-shaped moss, which can't be harvested. But at 2/3 of the moss per second, we use 1 per poppet. 2 per poppet, sorry. So this is still, probably 3 orders of magnitude faster than we actually need it to be. So, while it's not the most efficient, it's more than sufficient for the job. Final items get stored in here, connected still via storage bus, so we can use them in crafting. With Spanish moss out of the way, Enchanted Fabric, as I've already discussed, we have to manually craft. Effectively, it's just like a bajillion mana-infused string. But so be it. Bone needles, trivially easy. Tool base, I think we can already auto-craft these. No, we can't, but I'm pretty sure we can encode the recipe and then be able to auto-craft these. When doing these recipes that have blood orbs, it's important that, you put in your specific blood orb and leave allow substitutions on. But I think this should handle tool base. Which only leaves the one witchery string. Let's see. Yeah, so this takes some stuff like various of the dust we have automated. I still have to fully automate weak blood shards. I've been putting this off probably longer than I should have, but whatever. So that's the tool base. All that's left is spirit string. However, this has a few steps. So Spanish moss is done. Cool. 1/4 of it's done. Witch's what's it called? Witch's stitching is made in a spinning wheel. And it takes liquid witchcraft. So let's mark all the things we have to automate. Witch's stitching, liquid witchcraft. Golden thread takes more liquid witchcraft. All right, we already have that done. Obviously, wheat and gold nuggets we have covered, and string we have covered. And ectoplasm is made by cooking either bone or rotten flesh in a witch's oven. So I should mark that. And I guess we should do rotten flesh because you get 3 of them. So yeah, and Spanish moss is done. All right, so we have to automate these 4 things, which is I need a witch's oven, a second witch's oven, a spinning wheel, and a second spinning wheel. Good thing is, I think I can just craft these. I thought I had the auto crafting in. Here we go. Witch's oven 2. I need to make advanced. All right, well, manual crafting in the arcane terminal it is. All right, here we go. So witch's oven times 2. Go. And it's, what are these made in? Spinning wheel. Spinning wheel times 2. Essentia centrifuge. I think that's just, that's just crafted in this. Two. And I've already forgotten what this is called. Alright, and I think these are also made on the Thaumcraft infusion table. So I just have to wait for some infusion to run. An unfortunate side effect of wearing the Draconic Evolution armor is that it doesn't have like a built-in goggles of revealing, so I can't see the progress of the infusions. I know previous versions of Draconic Evolution had like revealing as an option we could turn on, but I guess that integration never made it into this version of Thaumcraft and or Draconic Evolution. Oh well. I trust it'll be, it'll do its infusions, nothing will go wrong, and I'll have my components in a couple of minutes. So for the two things that are made in the witch's ovens, that is the liquid witchcraft and the ectoplasm, I have an oven for each. The coal and empty jars are supplied by the ME interface with a limited item filter to ensure that, we don't end up putting coal in the input slot or empty jars in the input slot. Then the input material, mandrake root or rotten flesh, is supplied via an export bus on, active with signal mode, and then it's turned on with a level emitter checking the amount of the final product. If we have less than 2,000 of liquid witchcraft or ectoplasm, it starts the ovens up to make the appropriate material. So I've already crafted a bunch beforehand, so I have a lot of ectoplasm and witchcraft. Yeah, I still have a freaky number. Anyways, I have a significant amount of each, so those are done for now. Next up, we have to automate the stitching and the string in the spinning wheel, which I hope are done being crafted now. That they are. Man, I love auto crafting. The spinning wheels for making golden thread and witches stitching are slightly more complicated because both of these have multiple of the same input, and we discovered earlier that limited item filters, right? If you tell it, you can't tell it 2 stacks. It doesn't seem to understand that. So to keep it from overfilling with one input or the other, I have impulse hoppers just regulating the ratios of items so that they stay, in the right ratio. And then what I haven't added is I can add level emitters to turn off the impulse hoppers once we reach certain thresholds of, witches, stitching, and golden thread. Now, running those ovens and spinning wheels does drain our ultra power, but so far it seems like our drain is less than our regeneration, so our ultra is still staying maxed. That's good. We have one more thing to make in a spinning wheel, I believe, and that's spirit string. The last spinning wheel making spirit string is easier because it's 1 stack of each, so a simple limited item filter set to 1 stack of each takes care of it. The extraction is disabled by, once again, a level emitter set to turn on or turn off above 2,000. So that covers our 3 threads here. Why can't I unpin them? There we go. With that done, I think, are we ready to pop it up? I think so. Let me go and code this recipe. I'll handcraft a chunk of Enchanted Fabric just to, get us started, and then see if we can request some death protection poppets. Let's see it now if we can request, let's 29 more to make around 30. Looks good to me. Let's hit that go button and see what happens. Yeah, it's just crafting away. So, looks like we're bottlenecked on our mana pool stuff here. Yeah, because I'm also crafting a bunch of mana string at the same time. It's okay. Both crafting steps will finish before anything despawns here, just because of how quickly these sparks can move mana. Although I probably end up draining most of my mana pools in the process. Maybe it's time to add another, vertically stack all these flowers and double up on our mana, both our mana production and our mana storage capacity. Maybe I'll do that between episodes because it's literally just building the same thing again. There we go. 30 death protection poppets. I think these actually have a functional use in Bewitchment. You can bind it to yourself somehow, and they function as totems of undying, except you don't have to carry them, in your offhand for it to function, which is nice. But I don't plan on dying with, the armor I have now. So Now that we have these, we can even encode the recipe for death base. However, I don't think we are quite ready to go from death base to the next one, which is what? Corrupted base, just because of the sheer number of things we need, right? Yeah. It's 24 death base for a single corrupted base. But let's see. We should be able to make at least 3. Let's see if we can make 4. We can. So 4 death base is 1/6 of a corrupted base, which is 1/6 of a creative modifier. However, all the stuff that goes into it is now auto crafting in the background. So hopefully, by the time next episode rolls around, we'll have enough time will have passed that we can make at least 1 or 2 of these corrupted bases, so we can move on to the next few creatives, being the creative modifier and or the cache. So let's wrap up this episode here. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope to see you in the next one. Take care. Bye bye.